housekeeping ideas. We are so thankful to have the opportunity to be here in this beautiful facility, and we thank Claremont so much for allowing us to have this opportunity to be here. We have restrooms out the door and to the left or in the far corner here, so we want you to be aware of where those are. And thanks to our Lake County Educational Foundation, we do have some breakfast snacks and water and coffee over here, so please feel free to get up and partake of those items. And we have Carmen Cullen and Doug Major in the back. Would you please stand? We want to thank you for We have some elected officials in our audience that I'd like to recognize today. We have one of our school board members, Roseanne Brandenburg, is with us. Our chairman of our school board, Kylie Fisher, will be joining us in just a little while, so when she comes in, I know you'll recognize her as well. We have Representative Larry Metz with us as well. Any other elected officials, if you're an elected official with us, please stand and we can recognize you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Miller, I see Mr. Jim Miller here. We really appreciate having the opportunity to come together and have a dialogue on a very important topic, and that is our educational system and the progress and where we are moving in the state of Florida and Lake County schools. And our heart is really here with Lake County schools. So we really want to focus our agenda this morning on how we are implementing in the classroom at that level the Common Core standards and what that means to instructional delivery and assessment in our system. Our agenda this morning features Katie Stevens, the Common Core Communications Director from the Florida Department of Education, and Katie Stevens is with us, and you'll hear from her in just a moment. We also put on our agenda, because we've had a lot of questions about student data collection and what data is collected, how it is used and disseminated. So we have Dr. Creed Wheeler, our Executive Director of IT, and Jan Tobias, Director for Student Services, to share a little bit about data collection and how that is used, and they are also here with us. And what we also have included on our agenda is we have 3 representative teachers who are stellar teachers, and they represent stellar teachers in Lake County, of the elementary, middle, and high school levels, to really talk about firsthand what they are doing in their classrooms, so what it looks like for students on a day-to-day basis. April Vaughn Maxson from Tiberias Elementary School, Kelly Cousineau from East Ridge Middle School, and Andrea Pyatt from Mount Dora High School. So we're very anxious to hear from them because they truly are our practitioners every day. We also want to make sure that we have time for question and answers for you so that we can highlight the things and make sure that you have questions and your answers. And if we don't know the answers right away today, we will make sure that we put those on the list and we get those answers for you. And we'll be using our website to drive a lot of additional information. Our academic team, in addition to the people posted up front here, we have many people from our academic services department here that will be able to answer questions as we go through our morning. We really want to target our conversation today about the specifics here in Lake County. This is the first of several opportunities that we will have over the course of the next several months to talk about the transition to our new educational system that is still under design in many areas. We will continue to have this conversation, I will assure you. There are really 3 parts to the state of Florida's educational redesign. And let me just highlight those, because what I want to do is bring some historical information so that we can make connections and build upon some of the information that you may be aware of from your readings and research, along with what we have from the educational side of the house. If you remember, standards are the what part of our system. They're the knowledge and skills that students are expected to learn and demonstrate mastery at each grade level over the course of their educational program. So that we can make connections, it's important to remember where we've been. And we've always had standards here in the state of Florida. And Lake County Schools has used those standards that have been given to us by the state and adopted by the state. And then we've control the implementation of those. It's very important to have standards that clearly state those expectations for the teachers in the classroom, for parents to understand what their child is expected to learn, and for our students, so they know where they're going. It's important to remember that in 1996, Sunshine State standards were implemented. Then again in 2007, we transitioned to the next generation Sunshine State standards. And now in 2014, we'll be fully transitioned to Common Core standards. So if you really look at that pattern, you can see for every 7 to 10 years, there has been a review, a revision, and an implementation of new and updated standards. Some of the positive transitions over the years that we have seen as the standards have been reviewed and revised has been to develop a depth of knowledge so that we can go deep into a concept and students can comprehend and have full understanding so that they can go out and apply that information, rather than to have surface level awareness and understanding that is a breadth rather than a depth. We found that the Sunshine State standards that were adopted in 1996, while they were good for the time, they were a mile wide and an inch deep, and they focused very process-driven and procedural. So now we've transitioned to a deeper understanding with student ownership and the comprehension piece of it, with a focus on critical thinking, problem solving, and analysis. In essence, instead of a student learning information to repeat it back in a factual manner, has now been replaced with deeper understanding and a demonstration of that understanding through that analysis that the student makes from multiple sources of information that requires application through problem solving. If you put it in the context of today, of what we're doing as adults, think about this topic of Common Core that has created concern, apprehension, angst, some excitement. It's challenging. And so when you think about that change, what have we done? We've turned to the research. And if you think about the age of technology, there is massive amounts of information out there. And all of us have been doing our reading and studying and trying to wrap our arms around this new concept and make meaning and understanding and how it applies and what it means for us in our educational system, which we hold very dearly. Think about the skills you and I are doing as we grapple with this concept. We are analyzing, we're thinking critically, and we're making our own meaning, are we not? That is exactly what we're transitioning to in our classrooms. We want our students to do the same thing. So now students are having to take and make meaning and own that learning under the stellar guidance of trained, highly professional teachers we have here in Lake County, to look at multiple sources and analyze that information, draw conclusions based on evidence, and to be able to cipher through what is fact and what is myth and what is fiction. So truly, we want our students to have those lifelong learning skills that you want and you demonstrate as an adult. I believe that Ms. Stevens and the teachers this morning will share some examples of how we're transitioning from next generation Sunshine State standards to the Common Core. Knowing it and using it are the two key things that we want our students to do. The second part of our instructional redesign is instructional delivery models and that methodologies that our teachers have been highly trained to utilize in the classroom to engage students in that very learning model of critical thinking and analysis and application. This truly is where we have local control. And this is where we look at how we deliver that instruction, what types of activities the students are engaged in, and how they use that information. This truly is the learning process. This is the essence of what we're going to talk about as the teachers talk about how they do that in their classrooms. This is the meat and potatoes part of the true teaching and learning that we have total control over. The third part of the instructional redesign is the measurement piece. This is the assessment part that determines the level of mastery or proficiency of our students on the standards that have been adopted. Right now, Florida is scheduled to transition to a new assessment away from MCAT into the PARCC assessment. This is the part that's still unknown for us. And as that assessment is still under design and going through the validity stage. There's much discussion surrounding the terminology of Common Core standards, and we totally understand the confusion that might be out there. That's why we need to have an ongoing dialogue. There's concern and apprehension, and we recognize that. But before we draw conclusions that the standards are incorrect or they are not appropriate, we must analyze if there are other factors that are coming into play here that may cause some concern and confusion and the apprehension. And I say that because our system has been under transition and our teachers have been under a massive change for the past 3 to 4 or probably even 5 years. If you think about 2007 when the next generation Sunshine 6 standards appeared, we also had a new differentiated accountability system that was bold and aggressive, and Florida has been a leader in the nation or recognized that way. And in fact, since that time period, we've had over 39 different changes to our accountability system and our grading formula. And that has occurred with a lot of massive changes over the past 3 years even. And it's at this point that we had more prescriptive high-stakes testing for our students that took on new meaning for the learning process and for teachers in their performance assessments, because now they're linked to this high-stakes testing. The grading formula needs to be correct, and with massive changes, that has caused a lot of change at one time. All of this predates Common Core. So we need to keep that in the perspective here that there's a lot of things going on and a lot of change. Yes, there are many concerns of which I share along with you, that there have been comments made about high-stakes testing is being designed. And I want to tell you, some of my concerns and questions that I'm asking is, what do they really look like? What are they going to ask our students to do? What does that mean to our curriculum and our instructional delivery model? Are they aligned? Have we unpacked the standards to the point that our instruction is taking the students of where they are to where they need to be? And is the assessment going to be aligned to that? Is it going to be appropriately validated before we ask our students to perform on it? And what does it mean for teachers' assessment? And is our assessment instrument that teachers are held accountable for, is it aligned to what they're going to be measured for their students' accomplishments with the PERC assessment? All those factors play into this and have to be answered and addressed in perfect timing. We want to protect the innovativeness, the creativity in the classroom environment that is centered around rigor and instruction that produces college and career-ready students. And I also add community and citizenship to our student skill set when they leave us. For this reason, I support standards that are designed to do just that outcome in mind. That is why the second part of the system, that instructional delivery methodology, is so vital and requires so much attention and careful consideration, because that truly is the heart and soul of what we do every day in our classrooms with our teachers. To simply state it in a very simplistic example, I know you've all heard this before, we used to teach by telling students a lot about fish, using fish as an example, where they memorized a lot of facts, they took a test, and they gave us back those facts, and we marked them as correct or incorrect, and on we went. And figuratively, they ate well while they were with us. However, employers and college readiness data told us a little differently, that when they left us, we didn't have long-lasting success rates. And employers were saying, our students aren't coming ready with those skill sets that we need, and something needed to change. Now we are teaching the skill of fishing with greater student ownership so they can learn, analyze, problem solve skillfully, and be proficient for a lifetime, and produce the employees that our employers need to fill those workplace jobs. These discussions are so important for us to have with all of you on a continual basis as we walk through these critical times of redesign and rigorous education for all students. It's going to take that two-way communication that you have been so gracious and careful to provide us your perspective, and we want to hear that. We need to be able to share what we know with you and understand in a transparent manner what what your concerns are and to listen with an open mind. And that's why these forums are being held. Again, I really want to thank you for taking your time and for your interest in our school system. Our students appreciate each and every one of you. Today, we're going to look at our implementation as it relates to Lake County schools. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Katie Stevens, the Common Core Communications Director from the Florida Department of Education. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Superintendent. I'm not sure what else I have to say. She did such a fabulous job. But I'm just going to run through quickly for you kind of the development of the standards, a little bit about changes in student expectations and why the rigor is increased in the Common Core state standards, and then a little preview of what assessment will look like under Common Core. So what are the standards? Why are they important? The Common Core state standards were developed by the National Governors Association and the Council for Chief State School Officers. They came together in 2006 and 2007 and said, we're noticing that there's an inconsistency among states in college readiness and career readiness. Everyone in this room, I'm sure, is familiar with the idea of the growing skills gap we have over the last decade or so in this country. That was one of the reasons why the leaders of these states came together. In addition to many students going to a college or university in their first year needing significant remedial help in English, language arts, and mathematics to be successful. So that's where they came together on these standards. They did research and they interviewed many of the top business leaders in our country and around the world. As you know, we have a global economy these days, so a student in Lake County isn't just competing with their peers in Lake County, they're competing for a seat in a post-secondary institution or for a job in the workforce from students from all over the world and all over our country. So over that process, they had 3 public feedback periods. They brought educators together, experts throughout the nation. 5 folks from Florida served on the development committees, 2 from the department, 1 Volusia County educator, and then 2 professors, 1 from the University of Florida and 1 from Florida State University. So Florida had a hand in developing these standards. These standards, there were some criteria. We want to really make sure students master the information and the skills that they need to be ready for college and be ready for those careers. So we looked at what current standards are like. Right now, educators have many standards that they have to cover. So there's this idea of, I will teach these standards Monday through Friday, and we'll move on, and we'll do Monday through Friday next week over a different set. With Common Core, there are fewer standards, and they require much deeper understanding. So educators can really differentiate their instruction to meet the needs of the different students in their classroom. They can make sure that they're spending the time needed on each student to make sure they reach that level of mastery. And because there's fewer standards, they're able to cover the materials that they have prior to that testing much better. There are some changes in learning for students under the Common Core state standards. You'll see here this is a list of change in student expectations. There's a greater emphasis on providing evidence and the reasoning, knowing what are credible sources, being able to pull that information and develop a sound argument for something. There's an accountability for your learning. So it's not just the teacher standing in front of their class, telling the student what the answer is and having them feed it back to them. It's the teacher posing a question and the students having to go find the answer and to kind of struggle in that learning process because it's building their critical thinking skills, it's building their problem solving skills, 2 of the most important things you need in college or in a career. So we go to changes in instruction. It's going to be more rigorous. The educator is going to become more of a facilitator back to their classmates and to their teacher and showing that they're understanding the concept. So as Superintendent Moxley said earlier, the standards are the what. They're that list of knowledge and skills that are needed for success at each grade level. But then there's this curriculum and instruction, and that's the how that teachers use, the materials, the methods, and that's all decided here in Lake County. So that's a local decision. The state does not have any say in that. We do vet materials that will be aligned to our standards that are optional for districts to look at and use. So we are in the process of developing a list of resources for districts. Take a closer look at some of the changes. The Common Core standards are really focused on three things: focus, coherence, and rigor. So you look at there are 8 mathematical practices associated with the standards, and there are instructional shifts. We also have literacy standards that go from ELA to other subjects like social studies, science, PE, health, art. And that's where these standards really work together across all disciplines. So we'll take a quick look at a few standards and show you the difference between, on the top are our current Next Generation Sunshine State standards, and on the bottom is Common Core, and this is an example of a 3rd grade writing standard. So there's a clear difference in what the expectation is. Under our current standard, it shows the student will write a final product for an intended audience. Okay, that product could be really anything. It could be a program, it could be a report, it could be a menu, it could be anything. It's very unclear what level of writing has to be done there, and who's the intended audience. Under Common Core, it shows much more specific skill with guidance and support from adults. Use technology, so keyboarding or some sort of a device, as well to interact and collaborate with others. So they're using their peers to develop this piece. It's going to be reviewed. So they're having much more interaction. It's a much more rigorous process. The next standard is the 6th grade mathematics standard. So this shows you a little bit of the rigor there, and it provides the educators an example for what type of learning what type of instruction they could use in their classroom. So this is absolute values. So account balances, that's a real life skill. We all balance our checkbooks, we all watch our finances. So this shows also that idea of application, of making sure it's useful in real life. We often hear, well, I don't use algebra in my life. Well, you probably do, you just don't realize you're using algebra. So the Common Core emphasizes that idea of translating these skills into everyday life. The next is a reading standard. Again, it shows you here how comprehension is important. Comprehension strategies now under current standards could vary anything from teaching a child how to use a highlighter in their textbook to find important arguments, or utilizing cause and effect. This novel said this here, and this happened. How do they relate? Show us the evidence. So in Common Core, they're just more specific and more rigorous. Lastly is a high school mathematics standard. Conditional probability. I don't know about you, but I'm not so far removed that I shouldn't remember what conditional probability is. But under Common Core, it gives a clear example. You see this, compare the differences of someone with lung cancer who's a smoker with a smoker having lung cancer. So that's something that is relatable in real life. This how our students are doing in preparation for the transition. So a little bit more about that assessment. You'll see here, this slide shows the changes in assessment. So right now we have FCAT 2.0, and then at the secondary level we have end of course